What still creeps the fuck out of you? After reading that story, I went and looked at other accounts of caving gone wrong. There are stories right here on Reddit. People caving and it starts raining on the surface so the cave fills with water. Or they are crawling in a tight shaft and they realize it's getting smaller and they can't turn around. People supposedly go into a cave with friends to do this stuff for fun. And they say it's actually very safe. The fuck it is. In late middle school, I think 8th grade, we went to the beach with some family. Myself, my brother and a cousin all got stung by jellyfish in the water about waist deep. It took me 2 years to go back in the ocean. When I did, my brother and I were horsing around and he pushed me. When I stepped back to catch my balance, I felt a sharp stabbing pain in my left foot. Turns out I stepped on what was believed to be a nurse shark. The shark did not appreciate this and took a piece of the bottom of my big toe with it. They had a Coast Guard helicopter out over the water and everything. 3 years before I went back in the water, and only after a ridiculous amount of coaxing. That said, I still feel like if I can't see my feet, it's too deep. When I was 4, we moved to a new house and I kept telling my parents about the man that would come at night and watch me. They would ask me questions, but I guess my answers were vague, so they just attributed it to my imagination. After a month or 2 they started to get worried, and one night my dad stayed awake outside my door and heard someone walk up to the window. He ran him down and called the cops. Turns out he was the son of the elderly neighbors down the street. He was mentally handicapped and would sneak out and walk around the neighborhood when he got bored. It's weird because my parents said I was never scared of him, or at least I had an opossum buddy who did this. There was a thread about opossum yesterday where someone explained the glare from my monitor probably helped him find crickets, so essentially we were pals. They also made it clear he's probably dead. Opossum don't live long. Sad face. First time I saw him, his little skull face scared the hell out of me, but he was super calm. I worked the night shift at the local youth shelter. My co-workers used to tease me about closing the blinds as soon as they left. I explained that I'm alone all night and don't need people looking in the giant living room windows that you can actually walk through from outside if the windows are open. They have a co-worker plus however many kids are there with them. I am alone while all the kids are asleep. No fucking way I'm keeping the curtains open so I can glance up and have someone staring back at me. For the record, there was one person who did this in the 2 years I've been here. Luckily, the blinds and curtains were closed and he was caught on the cameras later by the boss and the That has been like one of my fears since I first asked my mom as a kid what those people were doing standing with signs on the side of the road. Literally, that's why I don't drink or do any drugs and worked hard to get my career so I would never be homeless. Now as an adult, I know there's way more things that lead a person down that road and some are out of their hands. T's actually an evolutionary instinct. Predators generally attack by ambushing. In the night, since the predators can see better than us, the chance of us being killed increases greatly. So we are intrinsically wired to worry about places where there can be something hiding, especially in dark. This link gives a brief idea on how predators hide for hunting. https://udo.be/lhsdxb0ok8 Had a guy come through my bathroom window when I was showering. I'm a fully grown man. I thought it was one of my brothers or friends fucking with me because we were going fishing shortly. I thought one of them showed up early, so I open up a shower curtain to see some drugged out dude grunting and making like zombie type noises flop onto my floor, but ass naked, ran out, held the door shut and had my girlfriend called the cops. Dude was in the shower when the cops arrived. So now it's hard for me to have the windows open. People suck. Same experience. I was like 8 or 9, was swimming at the Buffalo River with family and lost my footing. Water dragged me to water over my head. I struggled at the surface, water got up my nose, it stung, and then I went under, and remember seeing this beautiful play of light filtering down through the crystal clear water, sparkling down on me from the surface, and I remember thinking, oh, I see. So, this is how I will die. I closed my eyes and waited to die, and then my aunt pulled me out of the water. See, that's what I don't do. It's been 20 years for me, and I had never once opened my eyes aside from the one time I did a couple of years ago and got that demon gradually sitting down on your chest situation. It only stopped when I basically slowly exhaled all the oxygen in my lungs as I couldn't breathe. I was curious, fucked around, and found out. That is honestly really scary. I'm sorry you have to deal with all of that. I'm too much of a scaredy cat, when during the initial wakefulness. But I do have a genuine question for you as someone who had his fair share of sleep paralysis. Do you truly believe your eyes are open when you wake up during an episode? Obviously, as you can see, I have not done any research, so I'm not entirely sure. But in my personal experience, when I wake up, obviously I can't move, but I will try to move my fingers and work my way up. But then when I regain full bodily control, I can physically feel my eyelids open. So I'm not really sure if it's due to my body still not having control yet or what. But when I open my eyes after recognizing I'm having sleep paralysis, I only do that once, calm myself as to not trigger any scary thoughts. My reality feels real, but at the same time fake. It feels like as if my brain is altering my perception of reality. It just does not feel real. I feel like I'm creating this image in my head of my room, to make my conscious world feel normal. As in to not freak out, or slowly adjusting myself to actually wake up without scaring myself or have that shock factor. Basically familiarize myself with my room, as even then, I don't see any demons or whatever scary creature my mind creates. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but I had occasional bouts of sleep paralysis after particularly traumatizing stuff as a kid. It only happens time to time when I'm pretty stressed, but it's the fear of it happening constantly that makes it more stressful. Especially scary as an already traumatized kid that didn't have a clue and thought it was real. People calling out for help when you can't move, being manhandled by things you can't see, and demons sitting on your chest telling you terrible things are going to happen to the world is probably the worst thing for an 8 to 14-year-old. I occasionally have sleep paralysis. The last time it happened, an actual shadow person walked in my front door. I live in a studio and my front door is in front of my bed. The shadow person just walked around my house picking things up and then stood over my bed staring at me. It doesn't happen enough for that to not terrify the fuck out of me. Replying to your first comment, mostly for visibility, but frequent sleep paralysis can be a symptom of narcolepsy. Like, lots of people get sleep paralysis on a rare occasion, but getting it frequently can genuinely be a symptom of your REM sleep cycle being completely out of whack, which in its most disordered form is narcolepsy. I recently got diagnosed with narcolepsy and I've had frequent sleep paralysis for years, and I never connected the dots that the sleep paralysis could be a symptom of a sleep disorder. There's a guy I work with who creeps me the fuck out. He's overly nice, creepily nice. Constantly pouring compliments on you. He gets too close. He likes to sneak up on you and give you a shoulder rub while whispering compliments in your ear. He also has this obviously fake laugh. It's hard to describe, but I call it his I think I'm supposed to laugh now laugh. So he'll laugh at inappropriate times because he thinks that's what the situation calls for. He also lies a lot. I've caught him out a few times. It's really hard to explain. It's like watching a lizard in a human suit figure out what to do or say, and he often gets it wrong because he's misread the situation. I've made it clear to him and our boss that if he comes near me or my family, I will smash his head through the nearest wall. As a result, he now stays away from me because I see right through him. I'm convinced he is some sort of psychopath or sociopath. I'm not smart enough to know which, but I do know I've seen enough to not want him near me because he creeps me out so much. I've considered this. He claims to be autistic. He claims not to know right from wrong. But when I call out his behavior, he is fully aware that it's wrong. He knows he's crossing the line and persists anyway. So quick story time. He attacked a colleague. I was there, witnessed it myself and put a stop to it. When the victim reported the incident, he lied and said it didn't happen. I come forward and said it did. I'm quite respected where I work and my word goes a long way with the higher-ups. When it came to light that I'd come forward, this creep started crying his eyes out, saying he had a family member who had died and he was the real victim, not the person he attacked. It's my belief that my employer is biding their time. For example, the attack on a colleague didn't happen on camera. It took place in a blind spot and luckily I happened to be there. I think my employer is waiting for something to happen on camera. Then it's concrete and undeniable. That's my feeling talking to the leadership about the situation anyway. I'm not in the leadership team BTW. If it were left up me, he'd be gone. I'm just the older guy on the shop floor everyone looks up to. I worked with a guy who was homeschooled, no offense to homeschooled people. But because his parents had kept him basically isolated from regular people when he was growing up, everything he did seemed like it was from a book or movie he'd seen. He had a constant weird smile, and had no reservations about talking about how handsome he was. This, we found out, was from his family's constant praise. On the other hand, he was genuinely nice. I felt bad that he had been denied a regular childhood. Surgeon here, you can definitely tell when a patient is too light because they start responding to the most painful parts of the surgery. Getting them to a more appropriate plane stops even the unconscious pain responses. Also, you're not asleep, your brain is just being poisoned to the point insensitivity. Midazolam, on the other hand, causes sedation but not anesthesia, and inhibits the formation of long-term memories from short-term memories. If given at a sufficient dose, it causes both anterograde amnesia, but also retrograde amnesia for any memories you still have in short term. Well, this seems like a good enough place to ask this at 2:35 a.m. on a Saturday. Me and my dad both have a hip replacement. I got general anesthetic and my dad got a epidural and some meds. Now I was completely out, but my dad was awake. So my question is, since my dad can't remember, is, how alert would you be in a situation where you are pretty much having your leg removed and sawed up? Like able to have a conversation with the surgical team? Or just a drooling mess on the table not caring about or able to respond to anything? General anesthesia gives you a muscle relaxant, a painkiller and something that makes your brain tune out, sleep. In case of an epidural or other local anesthesia, the painkiller and muscle relaxant parts are taken over locally, but you might still get something that puts you out, just not to a point where a machine has to breathe for you. For example, they might give you dormicum, like they might also give you for a colonoscopy. Your dad probably got something like that. There is also a barrier between you and the operating field. Even if you're awake you can't just watch them operate, they put sterile field up. I got an ankle reconstruction after an accident under local anesthesia and I vividly remember. Momentum equals MVR. Even though helicopters' mass is more than blades, there is a significant difference between the relative velocity of the blade and copter body. So the spinning blades create a positive momentum which leads to the copter body receiving an equally opposite rotation. That is why we need the tail rotors to counteract the opposite rotation. Creepy fucking men who follow women around in stores. Most of them are baby boomers, some of them are not. I'm not in any way what most men would find attractive. To get this man in Kroger to stop following me, I made a huge scene, and threatened to punch his fucking lights out if he got any closer. My grandparents lived on top of a mountain. Behind the house was a downhill patch of grass, maybe an acre, so you could stand on their big back patio and enjoy the view of living in the woods. My brother and I learned that we could sound like really pissed off razorback pigs. We decided that was a smart idea and began doing that down into the dark valley with the porch lights off. I heard the sticks and leaves in the woods snapping loudly and we both ran inside as fast as we could, slamming the door shut, locking it and pulling the curtains closed. Both our hearts were pounding. We could feel whatever was in the woods was right on the other side of that door. Later that night I walked down the hallway to the bathroom at the end of the house, looked to my right in the bedroom and saw the most menacing, red eyes staring deep into my soul on the other side of the window. They were locked on me. Every move I made they followed. I was frozen in place. The second the eyes blinked I bolted into the living room screaming and crying about how we'd stirred up a monster that was following me. In the South such a thing is taken seriously. Especially on a hill in the woods. Shotguns were grabbed and the hill was checked, nothing was found. To this day I get chills thinking about what that was and what would have happened if we were curious and